Libya were complaining? No, that was a pure fiction of the Western media, that somehow the people were demonstrating against Gaddafi. That was never the case. And he knew it, and yet he couldn't figure out what was going on. It was basically these proxy warriors that the United States and NATO had brought in, then in addition to a no-fly zone, so that when the people, the Libyan people, when they go out on the streets and protest in favor of Gaddafi, they kill them. And then after they got killed, they blame it on him. And this is the exact same modus operandi that got used in Syria, except that it didn't work in Syria. It seems to have broken down. We're talking about the same modus operandi that began with the overthrow of Mossadegh in Iran. Psychological warfare, the use of the press to manipulate mobs of people, to give the impression that the people no longer accept someone as a ruler and that the new ruler should be accepted. That playbook really hasn't changed at all. It was the same thing in the Ukraine, the coup d'etat that was staged by Victoria Nuland. But again, it seems that world consciousness has reached a point where certain people have begun to understand what is going on. And so the Ukraine, in a sense, the coup d'etat in the Ukraine backfired when Crimea voted to realign itself with Russia. I'm sure that's not what Victoria Nuland had in mind. But I think what happened here is that finally the Russians have finally understood the techniques of proxy warfare and how they are being used against them, the techniques of economic warfare that got used against them during the Yeltsin era when Larry Summers and Jeffrey Sachs orchestrated the looting of the Russian economy and putting it in the hands of the oligarchs. And now they are putting these lessons, having learned these lessons, they've come up with a way of countering them, which we're now seeing in Syria, where Russia has basically turned the tide, and now it looks as if Assad is going to stay, and it's not going to be the easy overthrow that Gaddafi was in Libya.
It seems that our opposition here is, it's worldwide. They got all the money. They're extremely powerful. They got the media. They got the banks. What do you see as a pathway for us to get out from under this oppression?
Well, the main pathway is consciousness. And I think we all are, in a sense, materialists, and we tend to denigrate the notion of consciousness. But and also, we have to understand, we have to view this from a theological point of view, that God is in charge of human history. And God cannot allow human history to have a negative outcome. That can't happen. So all the evil that exists in the world has one purpose in mind, namely some type of consciousness of the good. How the evil that exists can only exist in God's mind to bring about the good. The classic example in the Bible is the story of Joseph and his brothers. Joseph gets sold into slavery, which is obviously an evil thing, betrayal by his brothers. He ends up going to Egypt, where he then rises in power to be the right-hand man of the Pharaoh and in charge of the granaries. And then famine breaks out in Israel. The brothers have to come, and there's a long confrontation, and finally he reveals who he is. And then he says to them, the evil that you intended to do to me has been turned by God's power into good. That is shorthand for the entire story of human history. That is the story of human history from God's point of view. And that has not changed in our day. And so what we're seeing here is the rise of global consciousness, which is always the prelude to some type of change. You have to have change in consciousness first before you can have change in institutions. And I think that's what's happening now across the world. There is a consciousness that didn't exist before. And this is important because we're talking about covert warfare. And in a sense, in order to be effective, covert warfare has to be covert. And if we know what a false flag operation is, for example, which nobody knew about 20 years ago, well, we know something, and it's not as effective. And I think that's what we're seeing here now, a change in consciousness, a change in the global consciousness. I've talked about this. I've gone to Iran a number of times, and I said, what we're talking about is a return to logos. Logos is the Greek word for reason or order. Logos is the order of the universe. And the thing that's driving this turn to Logos, especially in Iran and parts of the Islamic world, is the presence of chaos. So chaos, in a sense, has the natural reaction to chaos is to seek some type of Logos. What is the real order of things, and how can we work to achieve this order? I think that's what's happening right now.
Well, I can see that. Well, first of all, I have a couple questions for you. Can you point to a time in history, another country that's been able to take power back from the oligarchs?
One of the great reform movements in the Catholic Church was the Counter-Reformation. Up until the break of Luther, the church was pretty much controlled by usurers. In other words, oligarchs. The cardinals would bribe other cardinals with money from either borrowed from the Medici or the Fugger family in Germany, and then they would the guy who paid out the most bribes would become elected pope. And that broke. That system broke down, and there was a reform. Now, the problem is that. And it was successful in many ways in rolling back the Reformation, which was a looting operation. There are two causes of the Reformation. One is lust, and the other is greed. And what the Counter-Reformation did was it succeeded in bringing large portions of Europe back into the Catholic fold. It didn't succeed completely, and as a result, usury took root in two countries specifically, England and Holland. And because usury took root there, this was the beginning of modern capitalism. And we have been that battle has been fought for all these years. There was a comeback in Germany at the end of the 19th century. That was destroyed by World War I. I mean, I have, as I said, I wrote a book called Barren Metal, which is a history of capitalism. There are various comebacks. I've described two of them in this book. There was a comeback in the United States, the populist movement, leading to the Mariner Eccles as head of the Fed. A comeback. Labor made a comeback against usury, all the way up until the Paul Volcker era, when usury, that's the era we live in now. We still haven't gotten out of that era, where the creditors and the usurers basically took over the government when Ronald Reagan and Margaret Thatcher became head of those two respective countries. So it goes back and forth. And I think we've reached a moment where the oligarchic power has become so tyrannical that we can expect a reaction. But the reaction has to begin with consciousness. And that's what I'm trying to achieve here. Some type of new consciousness of where the real problem is and where the real solution is.
But overall, you'd say you feel optimistic?
I have to feel optimistic because I'm a Christian. Because I believe that God is in charge of human history. And there are people who are evil, okay? The evil that you intended to do to me has been turned by God's power into good. That's what I believe. And that's what I believe is happening in our day, even though it's hard to see it sometimes.
Oh boy, thank you so much for coming on. You know, this is very good stuff. I hope you enjoyed your time on the show because I'd like to have you back.
No, but it was my pleasure, and I'd be happy to come back.
Okay, before you go, I want you to first of all, when you come back, what would you like to talk about?
Well, what haven't I talked about?
Okay, we
talked about.
Yeah.
I mean, what seemed the most problematic of what I said? We should probably resolve that. You know, if there's something that you didn't quite understand or didn't make sense, or that's what we should resolve. You know? Let's see what kind of feedback you get.
Emailrevealer.com. People ask me all the time, hey, Ed, are you still a private investigator?
Dr. E. Michael Jones.
Go to
Thank you so much, sir.
emailrevealer.com. We handle adoption
I'll be talking to you
investigations,
soon.
infidelity investigations,
Bye-bye.
where you give us your spouse's email address. We trace it back to online dating websites, catch them cheating online. Email tracing, locate or identify somebody from as little as an anonymous email address. Someone owe you money? Back child support? We can find that deadbeat, locate his hidden assets, locate his hidden bank accounts, find his current place of employment, and even assist you in obtaining a judgment and recover that judgment for you. Emailrevealer.com, digital forensics, computer forensics, cell phone forensics, recover deleted text messages, create a report that you can use in court. Emailrevealer.com, 800-572-9762. The Opperman Report is brought to you by Aquadam.net. You can give them a call at 707-764-2119. A flooded home is never easy to deal with. You're left with the mess to clean up, the insurance companies to deal with, and not to mention all the memories, the precious memories that are lost in the flood. You can never replace those. And Aquadam can be a tool in your arsenal to protect your home and property from the floodwaters. The cofferdam is filled with water to control water and is reusable as long as it's taken care of. It can protect your home or business from rising floodwaters like a dam, but without the beavers. It can also be used in construction. If you need an area to be dewatered, an Aquadam can do the job. An Aquadam was used at SeaWorld in Orlando for the Mako roller coaster ride during the coaster's construction by dewatering the work area. An Aquadam is now dewatering the work area at San Antonio SeaWorld for their newest roller coaster ride. An Aquadam has been used in many construction projects all around the U.S. and all around the world. Now give Aquadam a call, 707-764-2119. You can look them up online at aquadam.net. You can find them on Facebook at Aquadam Inc. You call them up, you email them, you tell them Ed Opperman sent you, and they're going to take 10% off the price. Aquadam.net, 707-764-2119. If you find yourself in need of legal representation, it can be a very stressful time in your life. In my career, I have dealt with thousands of lawyers, I've dealt with thousands of law firms, and I can confidently recommend to you Keith M. Davidson at kmdlaw.com. Available 24 hours, 7 days a week. Just log into kmdlaw.com. That's kmdlaw.com. Or you can call toll-free 833-4KMD-LAW. That's 833-4KMD-LAW. Personal injury, wrongful death, STDs, sexual assault, car accidents. They handle it all efficiently and professionally. It doesn't matter how imposing the opposition may be, because the team at kmdlaw.com are battle-tested and fierce. They will not stop until justice prevails. Go to kmdlaw.com or call toll-free 833-4KMD-LAW. If you're in for the fight of your life, stop screwing around and contact KMD Law. PureSoapFlakes.com, 218-568-2525. Have you ever heard of Castile Soap? Pure Soap Flake Company handcrafts fine soap bars, laundry powder, and concentrated soap flakes using organic vegetable oils from their northern Minnesota facility. Bathe your body and wash your clothes with pure soap products that are free of fragrance, GMOs, palm oil, sodium lauryl sulfate, and synthetic additives. Keep it clean, folks. Pure Soap Flake Company products are kind to living creatures and sensitive skin, safe for drains and waterways, and work great in high-efficiency washers and top and front-loading machines. They have a little promotion going on. Contact them to order some soap. Mention the Opperman Report. You're going to get a free gift. They're going to send a little extra soap, travel size, soap bars and laundry soap, cleaning soap flakes. I've been using that stuff all day long today. Great stuff. Order today at puresoapflakes.com or give them a call, 218-568-2525, 218-568-2525. Pure Soap Flake Company is a proud member of the Handcrafted Soap and Cosmetic Guild.
Are you ready to change your life, but don't know how to start? Is your stress and worries keeping you awake at night? Have you been battling grief, anxiety, or depression all alone? Have you lost touch with your own sense of being or spirituality? Soul Free Therapies offers professional and affordable live video streaming counseling and coaching services from the comfort of your own home. Sessions offered in English, Spanish, and Portuguese. Go to our website at www.soul-free.com and book your first session today.